Okay, this is the start of lesson 103, and we'll be covering rational equations. And let me do one for you. Y over 2 plus 1/4 equals y over 6. And what you're doing here is looking for, since it's an equation, has an equal sign, rather than change the bottom numbers like the denominators like we've done when they're just like this. When it's an equation, we're going to cancel out the denominators by multiplying by the LCM. So we're looking for the common denominator that each one of these will go into. And that number for this one will be 12. We have done a little bit of this. So then that cancels, this cancels, and this cancels. And then we can write our equation without the denominators, because we've canceled them out. It makes it a lot easier to work with. We'll minus 2y and minus 2y here, and minus 3 and minus 3 over here. We end up with 4y equals -3. Divide by 4, divide by 4. The answer is -3/4. Okay, let me do another one for you. This one is t minus 2 divided by t equals 14 over 3t minus 1/3. And what we're going to do here is we're looking for the denominator that everything will go into, okay? And that's going to be 3 will go into 3t and t goes into 3t. So we're going to use 3t. 3t, 3t. Now don't forget to put this in parentheses because that represents one number and we're going to have to eventually distribute. Okay, so then we can cancel, and those t's cancel, and the 3t and 3t cancel here, and the 3 and 3 cancel here. So here we're left with 3t minus 2 in parentheses equals, this one's 14, this one's t, right? t times 1. This becomes 3t minus 6 equals 14 minus t. You add the t both sides, add the 6 both sides, and you end up with 4t equals 20. Divide by 4, divide by 4, and your answer is t is equal to 5. Okay, now we're going to do another one. I'm going to do several of these. These are kind of tricky. This one is n over n plus 2 minus 3/5 equals 0. Okay, so what is the LCM of these denominators? The common denominator that will go into both of them, and that's going to have to be the whole thing. It's going to be 5n plus 2. Put that in parentheses. That represents one number there. 5n plus 2. And this one is 5n plus 2. Okay. This, we eliminate this, and we get 5n. So we've canceled out the denominators there. Here we're going to do this and this. So we get minus 3n plus 2. And here we get 0. 0 times that's 0. Now we're going to do 5n minus, let's go ahead and distribute this, 3n minus 6 equals 0. You have 2n minus 6 equals 0, plus 6, 2n equals 6, n equals 3. Okay. I'll do one more with you that is like this equal to 0. Looks like they're doing more of these. I'll do one more with you. This one is 4 over x minus 7 over x minus 2 equals 0. So here, what are we going to have? Well, we're going to have the x and the x minus 2. That's the LCM of both of those. And we're going to do all three, multiply all three of them by this. And then we are going to cancel, and then that becomes 0. So now we have 4x minus 2 minus 7x equals 0. So this becomes 4x minus 8 minus 7x equals 0. So here we end up with minus 3x minus 8 equals 0. And then we're going to plus the 8, and we get negative 3x equals 8. Divide by negative 3, and the answer is negative 8 thirds. Negative 8 thirds. Okay, so the only thing that you want to pay attention in these types of problems, if your answer ended up being x equals 2, that can't happen because that ends up being a 0 here. And this is like not a solution. So let me do one more like that, emphasizing that. Find my eraser here that I dropped. Okay, so that's kind of something they're pointing out in this. I don't know if they're going to give you any that actually has this, but later on in like college algebra, you're going to have to recognize that you can't have a 2 in here, and it'll be 2 minus 2, which will give you a 0, because that won't work. I mean, you can't divide by 0. So this is like not a solution to this problem. So we didn't end up with that, so we're okay. But that's something you'll have to watch for later on. So let me show you another one like that and kind of emphasize that for you. Okay, here's another one. 4 over p minus 3 over p minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so this one right here, you know that p cannot be equal to what? Well, it can't be equal to 0 for this one. P cannot be equal to 0 or 4. So if you have a 4 here, you get a 0 on the bottom, a denominator, a 0. That is not able to be done. If you get a 0 here, same thing. So these are the two that will not be solutions. So when you solve this, if you would end up with those for solutions, those are not solutions, okay? And they'll cover more of that like in Algebra 2, but let's go ahead and work this out, how we know how to work it. We're looking for the LCM, and the LCM is both of those together. And we multiply everything by that. By this one. And then we can eliminate that. Eliminate that, and we end up here with 4p minus 4 minus 3p equals 0. This becomes 4p minus 16 minus 3p equals 0. This is 1p, right? 4p minus 3p, 1p, and then let's plus the 16 here and plus the 16 here. So p equals 16. Okay. That is the end of lesson 103.